My name's B. Duffield. I was at the St Anne's from 1964 to when I graduated in grade 12 in 1971. My two sisters came to the school as well. Like many girls in those days, were brought up on the famous 5 and the secret 7. It was all about young children going to school and having lots and lots of adventures. So I was absolutely convinced that boarding school would be exactly like an Enid Blyton adventure. I convinced these little girls to be part of my group, and we kind of walked around the school in my cape and mask and our pins and our secret 7 badges, waiting for adventures to be happening. Then I realised that boarding school wasn't like an Enid Blyton adventure. Forcing uniform regulations was one of the things I'll never forget about boarding school. We had 3 uniforms, but we also had to have regulation undies. We used to always have to lift our uniforms to show that we had the right undies on. I felt really special going to church on Sundays at the Cathedral because all the girls from St Anne's used to put on their white uniforms and their Panama hats, and we felt so special. The meals, looking back, were pretty bland. I remember one season the school must have got a lot of chocos, and every meal we had chocos, and I've never been able to look at a choco since. But the big treat was Sundays when we used to get sweets, and we used to all line up under the rain tree, and there was a table that had all different types of sweets. But the worst thing is it happened after breakfast, and if your name was called to do the washing up, you dreaded it because it meant that you were last in line for the lollies. They made me Chatham House captain. I never thought I would, mainly because in those days I had a terrible stutter. I couldn't talk. And the teachers knew that too. I remember they tried a whole stack of things to overcome my stuttering, but I think they gave me the confidence to realise, well, even with a stutter, I could still perform. 2 of my mentors at St Anne's was Mrs Hopkins, who was the most amazing science teacher in the world, and Mrs Amati, who I'll never forget for both her friendship and for her professional development of me. Because of Mrs Hopkins, I had a real passion for science. I did a Doctor of Philosophy in Tropical Veterinary Science. I worked in science for about 12 years. After that, I must have changed jobs about every 5 years. I guess the highlight for me was I worked as project director of major infrastructure and built $400 million worth of infrastructure here in Brisbane. I like to try things, and I think that's one thing that St Anne's encouraged me to do, have a go at things. So one of the things I did was I decided I want to write a book. So a couple of years ago I sat down and I wrote a book and I had it published, and the whole experience of that was fantastic. And now what I do is I work overseas on short-term assignments in countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Jordan. I work with small organisations and I help them develop their organisations on a more sustainable basis. Going to St Anne's, it made me a more compassionate person. I think it made me realise that you are well off and you need to give back.